Hey everybody, it is Road to Recovery, and it's Monday morning chat. It's the time in which I open myself to the world so that I could get feedback from my viewing audience. Um, Accidentally switched my webcams around. I should have been using that one, but that one's live right now. It's because I was using OBS last week and didn't get a chance to change my settings around. But anyway, I was kind of running in here because I didn't want to miss the Monday morning chat. And I'm sorry that I'm slightly late this morning, but it is what it is. Anyway, my name is Road to Recovery, and I talk about porn addiction recovery here on my channel. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, Monday morning chat is the opportunity for you to ask anything. The chat feature is open right now. You can dive on in, ask me a question. If I don't get any feedback this morning or any questions, I will just talk about the things that I want to talk about. And certainly there's a lot to talk about. I just wanted to um, let everybody know that I've been having troubles with Twitter. I usually try to do a lot of outreach through Twitter, but as of late, Twitter has been very difficult for me. I've been finding the process of interacting with the folks at Twitter to be troublesome because I'm constantly getting shadow banned and I don't know why. I'm trying to follow all of their rules. I'm not using any harsh language or anything explicit, and I still continually get shadow banned. So I don't know why that's happening. I wish I had an answer, but unfortunately, I do not. So it is what it is. If you're trying to reach out to me on Twitter, I still respond to my DMs, but because I'm shadow banned, I have to wait between 4 to 6 days before they'll release it. So I'm just not going to post because if I continue posting, the shadow ban could potentially last longer. I've just got to chill on Twitter for a little while, which kind of stinks because I like reaching out to folks there, and I certainly think it can be a useful source of information. Um, I've been getting a lot of engagement recently about what had happened. NPR had posted that article last week, and I talked about it on my last week's Monday morning chat. It's an ongoing problem that at the core of it is the nature of what is addiction, and there's a lot of so-called experts who, I shouldn't say that they're experts, but they're experts that have differing opinions, and some experts do not agree that um, there is such a thing as porn addiction, to which I have always responded that you don't live the firsthand experience of addiction, and you've never been in a room with other addicts, especially people who have cross addictions, like people that are both alcoholics and drug addicts that also have a porn or sex addiction, because then you will understand, although it is a behavioral addiction, it's just as powerful. And every single person who I've talked to that has gone through a drug addiction that simultaneously had a sex addiction, the sex addiction was always the harder addiction for them to lick. So if you're facing a porn addiction and you're having a hard time getting out of that porn addiction, you're not alone, man. Like every single person goes through that struggle. It can be extremely difficult breaking behavioral addictions in general, but specifically this behavioral addiction because it's tied in to a natural activity which happens to produce dopamine, which locks in the memories and creates triggers. So that's what we're fighting. It's not just the act of stopping the behavior itself. It's fighting all of the cravings and all of the routines that have been built into our minds that have locked these things into place, which makes it so much more difficult to have to stop because the brain wants to continue on with the activity. um, I've been working with someone recently who is going through a huge struggle, and I've had to throw almost every single tactic at the book with him. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today was the nature of technology and how we have things like our devices on hand that um, allow us to access the outside world and to do things like pay bills and check on the state of our friends through social media, that sort of thing. Um, Oftentimes, this addiction is locked in with our use of devices, and it can be difficult at times to separate one from the other. I would say sometimes it's almost impossible because many of you access your addiction through a device of some sort, and the device becomes part of the habit forming process. In other words, it formulates as a trigger within your mind. So by very virtue of you being around your device, whether it's a PC, laptop, um, cell phone, tablet, whatever that device is, if you've masturbated in front of that device several times over, you've probably built an association between that device and the ability to have sex. Um, Sometimes we get in denial about how strong that association is, and it could be terribly as powerful. Just sometimes just having the tactile feel of the device in hand can be enough to trigger you. Sometimes it can be, you know, you ever had one of those situations where you weren't even really thinking about it, and before you know it, you're just sitting there. You're not doing anything bad sexually, but you're just like flipping through applications, right? Just flipping through applications. You may not even be doing anything on the application, right? But you're flipping through. Well, think about that for a second. What is that? What is that? That's a behavior pattern, right? It's a nested behavior pattern that you created through habit formation. In other words, you repetitively kept doing that thing over and over again. So even though if you have no conscious plan of trying to do anything with the application that you're going into, your brain has now wanted to complete that procedure. In other words, it expects to do it. And sometimes the trigger could just be that you're bored, right? I'm bored, and you start flipping through your apps, right? And you catch yourself, you're like mindlessly flipping. You're not even doing it with intention, right? You're just doing it because you're bored, and your brain wants something to do. So dopamine, 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 dopamine. You keep flipping and flipping and flipping. It's a common problem, you know. Now add to that sexual gratification, right? So now you've got this huge positive motivator. I mean, we talk about, the act of creating a psychologically reinforcing mechanism. Sex is a pretty good one. You know, sex, cocaine, food, they all work at relatively the same way. By the consumption of these things, you know, we're producing dopamine. Sex is a natural dopamine releasing act. Drugs artificially release dopamine, and then, anytime we're like providing some lativity, entertainment that's lightening our mood, that's producing dopamine. All of those things can produce dopamine and create a habit forming loop by constantly doing that over and over again. So the device, the very access to the devices that we're using, can be sometimes the source of the problem. And so these things tend to run parallel, right? Um, the denial mechanism that a lot of people face is that they don't want to give up their devices. They don't want to give up their apps. Well, if you keep repeatedly failing and failing and failing, I could lecture you all day on the spirituality of, self improvement. I could give you as many tactics as you want to hear. I can, try to provide motivation and support for you as you're trying to go through the struggle. But if you're unwilling to honestly look at yourself and say to yourself that, something, this device usage in and of itself, without even the pornography, my usage of this device is kind of problematic. Is sort of the root cause of a lot of these things that I'm going through. If you can't look at that and honestly say to yourself that it is a problem, right? Then the struggle is going to be real, because you're going to be going through so many tactics to try to limit your control of the devices and the apps that you have access to, that it'll be, this giant project plan. You're going to have to tactically manage so many things. Like every single time your brain wants to take that break and jump into an application or jump onto a device of some sort, you're constantly fighting multiple battles. When realistically, you should probably consider digital minimalism, and no one wants to hear that. It's the one thing that a lot of people are just like, I don't want to stop my use of my devices. Are you crazy? How am I going to get on social media? How am I going to see my friends? How am I going to play my games? Oh no. Right? And listen to how lame that sounds. Honestly, like listen to how lame those excuses, which is what they are. They're excuses. They're excuses that your mind is set up because it receives so much pleasure from the activities that you're engaged in. And you have to have, like, they used to call in the South, a come to Jesus moment. You have to have a come to Jesus moment with the device. I'm sorry for anybody who's not Christian. It's just an expression. It's just an expression. But that expression, is is supposed to mean that you look at yourself honestly and with integrity, right? And say, is what I'm doing wrong? And for a lot of you, it is. It's hard to label it as wrong or bad or, harmful to yourself. But yeah, it is. It is. It's all of the above. And you have to be honest with yourself about that. And if you can be honest with yourself in that and start embracing some digital minimalism, especially early on, but I am of the opinion as I've gotten older and older that constant device usage is not good for you. And there's a lot of books on this. Actually, there's several books that I could probably recommend. One's a book actually called Digital Minimalism, and it kind of goes into some overarching research about like how all of the device usage can be harmful to you, and it provides a pathway. Cal Newport, I believe, was the author of that one. It provides a pathway for how you can clean up your device usage. And, it's a lifestyle thing. It's really cleaning up your lifestyle. But it's also embracing that we spend too much time, in kind of like this virtual universe. And by separating ourselves from our device usage, if we can actually maintain a healthy boundary by our device usage, that things become easier in general, including trying to manage your porn addiction. But all the other surrounding shit matters too. Hate to say. We lean on these things, right? We lean on these things to make our lives easier at times. So heck, I was checking my tax return this morning. I was, looking at my bank statement this morning on my phone. I get it. But do I need to have the phone on me 24 hours a day? No. As a matter of fact, I've shared with you on this channel several times that I practice a lot of hygiene methods with my phone. When I'm going to bed, for example, I don't put the phone next to me on my counter. I don't even bring it into the bedroom. I let it charge in a different room. That's a healthy habit right there. You're keeping the device away from you while you're going to bed. Proper sleep hygiene. And if you're doing zoning tactics early on, you can catch my tactics series on my channel if you're curious about doing that. But if you're practicing zoning tactics, it's almost essential for you to do those things because you're trying to teach your brain how not to interact with devices. In addition to not interacting with your addiction itself, because you require a device for most of us to be able to access the addiction in general, but part of that separation is making nice, healthy boundaries for yourself about where and when you can use devices. And even though I say the first 90 days for zoning tactics is what it's primarily aimed at, you might find that as a result of using zoning tactics, that it forced a little bit of digital minimalism in your life. And you may want to consider that from here on out. Less temptation of your life, the less problematic behavior you're going to be engaged in, the less chance of you relapsing, right? So there's a lot of good benefits to that. Let's see, just a quick time check. It's almost 9:30 and I haven't seen anybody come on yet. So I think I'm going to wrap things up this morning. I want to thank you all for coming out. I'll wrap it up. I don't see anybody coming on tonight, and it's the day after Super Bowl here in the United States, which means probably many of you are at home, hungover, not going to work. So I'm going to have some more videos up this week. I'm still looking for anybody who may be interested in doing a recovery conversation. If you have 30 days of sobriety and would like to talk about your recovery, I would love to interview you. I promise your anonymity. You can reach out to me through Twitter, even though I'm shadow banned right now. the link is in my profile here on YouTube. You can click on that and DM me, or you can email me at road, ROAD, the number 2, recovery, the number 11 at yahoo.com. Again, that's road, the number 2, recovery, the number 11 at yahoo.com. And I'll try to set you up. I'm looking forward to having an interview with somebody who's got at least 30 days of recovery under their belt and just wants to talk about the successes and, some of the struggles you had. So by our sharing, we are able to share with the world and also be able to help others who are in need or need that motivation to get through their porn addiction recovery as well. Thank you for listening, everybody. My name is Road to Recovery. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like this content. I make no money in anything I do here. This is all me giving back through my own 12th step work. Thank you, and stay on that road to recovery. Take care of yourself.